Hello, welcome back to Caught Above the Curtain. So I am on the Kington, Leominster and Stourport Canal, commonly known as the Leominster Canal. It's a completely abandoned canal. It was never really finished, so there's no restoration. There is a friends group, which I'll link in the description, but we're here looking to see what's left. I'm here with Paul, and it's a bit wet. So I'm just walking back away from Wharf House now in the opposite direction to the rest of this video. I just want to show you this section here. So this is towards the end of the canal where the sort of digging stopped due to the tunnel collapse. Now there were tramways eventually put in place to bring the coal down from the mines of Mamble, which were kind of behind me up in the hills over there. Mamble's not that far, maybe a couple of miles away from here. So the tramways came down, they brought the coal to the wharf, which was then shipped towards Leominster. It really is quite a beautiful area around here. You've got these ponds which were the old canal bed. You've got the footpath we've just come in across there, and you've got the absolutely beautiful Wharf House in front of us. It really is a beautiful building. So this was Sir Walter Blount's house, and he was part of the main reason this canal was built. So just over in sort of that direction over there was a place called Mamble where he had loads of mines. So this was never meant to be the terminus of the canal, but we'll go into that a bit more as we go through this video. So the canal itself was first envisioned back in 1772 when the Staffordshire and Worcestershire was complete. Now the idea was they were going to bring a canal across to Herefordshire. It kind of goes across Worcestershire, Shropshire and Herefordshire, and be able to bring goods down to the towns of Leominster. It wasn't until 1777 that Robert Whitworth was asked to survey 3 routes. They eventually chose their route, and they chose a contour that was kind of more suited to the landowners rather than the actual canal. And that was the start of the problems they had on this canal. They struggled with water because there were very few feeders to this canal. But anyway, it took 14 years of wrangling to get this route through. And eventually in 1791 an act was obtained, and in July that year construction started on the canal. Most of this canal was destroyed. It was at the end of its life, it was just filled in and buried, or the canal was taken over by sort of the railway companies. But certain sections stayed because they were used as ponds, and I think I'm in the canal bed now, I think this is one of them. Now further back up there by Wharf House there was a waterfall and a lovely pond which runs along the side of the track, and if you look down here there is another wall going across the length of the canal. Now I do believe this is probably for the same reason. So this would have just held water back, they could have kept their fish, next pond, next pond, next pond, and that's allowed some of these remains to stay. So we think we're coming up to our first structure. I can see just down here there's a white house, which I know to be the lockkeeper's house. Now the canal is widening here, and it feels like it's going into more of a cut. So this is where you have your waiting walls, and you'd be cutting to go into the lock. So now we found our first bit of infrastructure. So this, we believe, is probably an old, you can see it's blocked off air sluice, and it's newer brick as well. So we think this was another pond here originally, and you've got a wall here. Now I'm not too sure if that's a wing wall. I think the lock was probably behind Paul there, and this was coming into the lock here, because you can see it comes off at a bit of an angle. So we think it probably ran just to the right of the lock house there, and that would have been your lockkeeper's cottage, which has probably been extended several times since. So the first lock would have been about here where we stood now, with the lockkeeper's cottage just behind us. Now this was the first of 6 that ran in this section. It was a small flight which took you towards Leominster. Now we're going to walk down through here now. I know it's overgrown from what previous people have said, so I'm not sure what we're going to find, but we'll see what we can do. Now this was the first of 16 locks in total on the 18-mile route. Now there were plans for this route to be much longer. The plan was for about 46 miles of canal and about 60 locks, and that just brings into a bit of perspective about just how hilly this area is. I mean, look behind me there, you can see that's just one of a few small clumps. Now obviously the canal follows the contour, which is where they wiggle around, but if you look at this whole area, it's unbelievable that they even thought about bringing a canal through this area. Now there's a reason why tramways replaced certain sections, and they were proposed from quite early on, and that's because you can run up and down hill with carriages. You can't with water. Water runs downhill. So it became quite difficult just by the sheer amount of locks for the hills that were here, and the expenses of this, not to mention the 2.25 mile Penzance tunnel, which was never built. In geology, it was really difficult. You'll find more about that as we go through the videos. So if you don't already subscribe to Paul, please do. The link's going to be in the description. He does a lot of route stuff, so it's canals, railways, Roman roads, all that sort of thing. It's a great channel, and you'll enjoy it, trust me. So at this point on the footpath, you come back up across the canal. We were walking down the other side before, and we've got our first bridge. But I don't think this was an original bridge, but someone's certainly taken a good opportunity to destroy it. So we're now walking down towards the River Rea. Now that's one of the more important things we're going to come across. There's a footpath running across there, well there was, and it's now closed, and we'll see why in a moment. So you can see Paul now, he's dropping down into the canal bed. Now what we think we found here is, you can see the line of the canal run through there, and then you've got just a massive hole in the side of it which runs down to a stream. Now what happened when the canal was abandoned and the railway company purchased the canal, they literally just cut some holes inside of it, and it was a way to get rid of the water, stop any further water from coming in, because the streams of course still ran into the canal, and it literally just ran down into the stream. I think that's called the Mamble down there, which follows the canal all the way through basically to beyond Leominster to a place called Mamble. The issue with this route is, of course, the Rea Aqueduct is no longer open as a footpath. Now this was a huge aqueduct in the time, 41-foot span, a lot of bricks, and it was just Paul's lost again. And the problem is, when something that big is neglected for a long time, it starts to crumble. So this footpath's just never used because you can't get through. So we're kind of on a quite large embankment now. We've been following this awful track for quite some time, and I can now see the river below us actually. So we are on the edge of the aqueduct. This is the River Rea. We have Harris fencing there, obviously because of issues with this path going across. Oh wow. Just through the gap there, you can see the whole side is gone, and there's an old fence still hanging where the pathway was. Look at that. So one thing you can still see here are the wing walls. So I'm still on one now. Here's the coping stones underneath my feet, look. And that curves around to that side over there. So the canal's coming from the wharf that way, from Mamble, and towards the aqueduct there. And again, we've got the coping stones here. You can see quite how worn that one is. That's probably years of weather and tree roots and all that lot, rather than ropes. And you can also see the wing wall on this other side over here as well. The coping stones just in there. And through down on this drop here. You've got a much better view of it just from the top here. So that goes into this aqueduct, and then the collapse is just here. So just look at this here. This is well, it's cool. It's so epic. You've got the old, so I'm on top of the aqueduct to the back side of it here, the downstream side of it. The upstream face has fallen away below me. You can see just over there the edges and the edges there, and this fence would have been the original fence. I expect the top of the wall had gone once upon a time. I know the friends of the canal were trying to restore it and were trying to fix it, and during that time, it was in 2013 I think it was, that the face fell. But it's just left this hanging fence across the top. So whilst I've got your attention, please do click the like and subscribe, click the bell button to hear about my future videos. Also get in the comments and you'll see the friends of the Leominster Canal Trust down there. Why don't have a look? It's free to join them, you may as well. It's not going to cost you anything. Check them out. So we've dropped down the bank now and we're just coming round to the aqueduct. And what a sight it is. It's absolutely colossal. So this thing contains about 1 million bricks. The span was at the time the largest in the country. And just look at it, it's amazing. See where it's all fallen away. I'm not too sure if there's any evidence of, they drilled holes in it back in the war to prime it for explosives. They never demolished it, but the plan was to do a training exercise on it, which never happened. And down in here is a massive pile of bricks, which is obviously the old face. I'm going to see if I can get down here because it seems to be fairly shallow just here. Wow, it's amazing that for something that was so ridiculed, that it's still standing. You look at the damage caused by it, and the damage caused in the war to sort of put these holes in it for explosives. Now Rennie, when he examined this aqueduct, and I think it's 1795, he slated it. He said about how badly built it was. It was inadequate. It was held together by steel and timber, which it was. And Dadford, his reputation was probably damaged by this canal and all the failings of it. But credit where it's due, with the damages taken and all that lot, and the size of it, it's amazing that it's still standing to this day. I'm balanced quite precariously on top of some bricks here to try and get you some better shots. It's just, you just need to get under this. It's just incredible. Here we go, on through the worst bit. And we're underneath. So it's about half the span left, I would say, maybe a little bit more. And the face of the bridge has gone down here, probably due to storms over the years. Surges coming down through the stream. The banks are quite high on this, so I imagine this gets a bit of height to it. On a 1791 Act of Authorisation for this canal, they were banned from taking any water from the River Rea, which is what we're in now. And that proved to be quite difficult because they had so little water on this canal that this would have really helped. But there was industry down the stream, and they needed the water to power their mills, so they weren't allowed anything from here. You can actually see on this side now, on the face just up there, there's some steel crosses, or there'd be iron crosses, and what they were a way to stabilise. So they'd have been on both sides, they'd have been drilled, they'd have gone through, and you can see kind of more clearly on that one and that one over there that there's a bar going through, and that literally clamped the bridge together. I'm not sure where the timber would have sat on here, whether it was like a scaffold. That's probably long since rotting away. I can't see any signs of it down here. So this structure is now listed. I think it's in the year 2000 it was listed, and the footpath was only closed in 2013 when the side collapsed. Again, testament to this aqueduct and how much stronger it was than probably Rennie suggested. So back at the top now, we're going to carry on walking down towards Newnham Bridge, where there's another tunnel and some other bits. I'm putting the tunnels in another video, by the way, and I think I'm going to end this one here too. Wasn't expecting how epic this was, if I'm honest. That's an unreal bit of engineering there, and just the way it's in its dilapidated state just looks fantastic. So thank you very much and have a great day.